Commissioner Stone, thank you. We are live.
Okay, let me pull up my agenda real quickly. I thought it was on that email. And so, all right.
And Chairperson, before you start, I really would like to thank you and the other members of this committee for allowing me the extra 30 minutes.
Not a problem.
No problem.
Not a problem. Okay, so let me welcome everyone today to, I still can't get over our new title here, which is our Financial Services Audit and Compliance Committee. I still want to call it the Finance Committee, but anyway, for those of you that are joining us outside of the commission room, welcome, as well as those that are in person. So it looks like we have a proposed board agenda items that are recommended by this committee. And the first one is the fiscal year 2024 proposed budget adoption. The second one is the 3-year contract award for CBA employees, uniform purchasing to Patrick's Uniforms, contract service award number 3 to Williams Communications for 10 radio communication systems for paratransit services. And lastly is the contract award to Transit Solutions for 10 camera systems for paratransit.
Madam Chair, if I may, can I ask questions on these 4 items at this time?
Well, do we want to get a presentation or a summary of each of these?
Okay, is
prior
that,
to?
are we gonna get a present? Okay, yes, ma'am. I didn't know we were gonna do presentations.
That's quite all right.
Director Stone, with that, we'll turn it over to CFO Stephanie Cutter.
Okay.
For these 4 action items. Ms. Cutter?
Good afternoon, Director, CEO DeMassimo, colleagues, and the public at large. It is a privilege to come before you to provide a financial overview for the month of May and to provide you with what's coming for a board action at our June board meeting. I'm going to start with a presentation and then we'll come back to the action items if that's okay.
Okay.
Our financial overview for May, we will be bringing forward, of course, the revenue by category, expenses by category, and detailed information on grant reimbursements that were submitted and received during the month of May. This chart gives a brief financial overview. It lists the account balances in the operating account. We had, at the end of May, we had $7,375,115. In the grant account, at the end of May, we had $152,275. The transit tax collections, as of today for the month of May, is reflected in the table below, totaling $3,672,331. Our investment income for the month of May totals $33,973 as depicted on the graph. As the graph displays, that number continues to grow. Year-to-date earnings are $213,045. The June agenda topics, of course, the FY24 proposed budget. The budget is balanced at $31,000,000. $830,235 with revenues totaling expenditures. The action items for the month of June, a recommendation for the approval of the FY24 operating budget and the 5-year capital plan, along with the procurement of an additional 10 paratransit buses and supporting equipment, radio and camera procurement for each of the 10 buses.
You know, you had somebody out there walking the hall. I know she looked like she was looking for someone. That way.
To support these procurements, we are utilizing, particularly for the radio and camera procurement, the paratransit buses are grant funded with the 20% cap, 20% local match that will be coming from SPOS funds. The cameras and the radio will be procured with FY23 operating savings. The next agenda item is a 3-year contractual agreement for operator uniforms with Patrick's Uniforms.
May I ask a question about that?
Yes.
In looking over that, and maybe it's just because I've never bought a uniform, but some of those prices were high. Is there another company that does this, or is that the norm? I mean,
Well,
I was at some of the sweaters that were like $123, that kind of thing.
As a part of the CVA, the operators receive a uniform allowance for the year. And whatever that allowance can buy, if I'm not mistaken, I believe it's $500 for the year. Whatever that $500 can buy, that's their limit. Now, Patrick's Uniform was more competitive than our current supplier, A1 Uniform.
Okay. Well, that's all I wanted to know. Thank you.
And that was pretty much my question as well, is we did competitive bidding and
Yes.
Patrick just can't go to the
Absolutely.
top. Yeah, okay.
Any other questions on the upcoming action items for the month?
I want to ask you about the proposed budget adoption.
Yes.
Now, I know you gave us a book, but that wasn't complete. That was a sketch. So prior to us voting on the budget, will we get a budget book that's pretty much outlines exactly where the dollars are going and that kind of
You're
thing?
not going to get the final book. The final book comes after the adoption of the budget. That's the bound document with all nice and pretty.
Right.
That comes afterwards. What you will get is the updated version with updated projections that reflects the 31,830 to 35. I will be going over a PowerPoint presentation. We'll have the final reading of the budget that walks through the budget, particularly by category, highlighting the challenges, highlighting the priorities for FY24. But the final budget document will not be ready until maybe late July.
Right, the clean copy, but we will get, I guess I'll call a draft of exactly what we will be adopting. And it'll be,
yes,
it'll be thorough enough that when I look, all my questions will just disappear. You hope so.
That's the goal. That's the goal.
Okay.
Dr. Robinson.
And when will that happen?
Well, at the board meeting,
On the
it'll
27th?
be adopted I will be working on getting that draft, that for the board meeting by governance.
Okay.
Which is next week.
Okay,
Okay.
okay, okay. That was it for me. And the same thing with the camera system for para service, that was also vetted,
Yes, ma'am.
and the selection was,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
okay, I'm good.
And wanted to, this is a very, very important piece that I am working on wrapping up along with the CEO and colleagues. The final response to the financial management oversight review that was completed the latter part of last year. We had some advisory comments as well as maybe 2 findings that we need to respond to. One related to a grant drawdown in 2021 for the electric buses, the 6. And then one related to procurement. We did not have a contract on file. This report, this oversight review was for the period of July 1, 2019 through June 30th, 2021.
And that FMO report is done, what, every 3 years? Or we were just behind, or?
Well, because of COVID, there were some delays. I'm not sure, but I'll have that response for you as to the frequency that the FTA comes around and conduct that review.
Really quickly, FMOs are usually on an as-needed basis, and they usually are prompted by some inquiry that was made, and this particular one was prompted exactly by that. It was something that occurred about maybe a year and a half or maybe a year and 9 months or so ago, and that was what prompted that inquiry, and the FMO was the result of that. But typically, they only do those on what they consider an as-needed basis. They're not regular.
By FTA?
Yes, ma'am.
So, yeah, I was thinking, yeah, okay.
3 years.
That's coming in October.
Yeah, that's, I was thinking about the triennial review. And what I had a question about was, when the FMOs are done, they look at vacancies and how well we're doing in that area. That's not a part of triennial?
It depends on what the matter is at hand that they want to take a closer look at. It could be a financial matter, it could be a procurement matter, it could be any of a number of things, but it's typically focused on a particular matter at hand that they have some question about.
So within the 3 years, FTA is looking at what we're doing, and that's what triggers the inquiry? What triggers the inquiry?
So on the triennial review, those are done every 3 years.
Mhm.
That's something everybody goes through, and to your point, I think you're spot on, that it's a comprehensive and they look at everything. In a FMO, those are only, happen when there is some inquiry made that prompts them to do it, and it could be an inquiry or a concern may be expressed around, it could be a financial matter, it could be a procurement matter, it could be a hiring matter, it could be, who knows? It could be any of a number of things. And in this particular case, there was something that they came to look at specifically and were satisfied, as Ms. Cutter has described, with our performance. They didn't have a finding that was resulted from what the initial inquiry is about.
So where would the inquiry come from is what I'm asking. What would prompt them to come and look? It could come from you,
it could be from a vendor, it could be from a former employee.
Okay.
It could be from a
So
Citizen.
okay, so you, somebody from the outside that would create an inquiry that would cause them to take a look at what we're doing in that area.
outside
Or internally as well.
Okay, okay.
And that will be the gist of the financial report for the upcoming June meeting on the 27th of June.
And we have human resource May 2 through 223 status.
Yeah, you will be getting some May stats. Our recruiter was out for the majority of the month of May due to a medical procedure. So I'm gathering stats now to bring forward by next week for governance.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'd like to know where we are with all of that as well.
Okay, you'll have it at governance.
All right. Are there any other questions?
Not in this area.
Director Stone, we didn't have any items under old or new business, and under proposed business for action by other committees. It's delivery operational. We just had that committee a little earlier today, and there was no action items, but the report that you will be typically seeing regarding our service and operating matters and performance. On planning and infrastructure development and on the master transit plan, as was communicated to you a little earlier in the day today, and in response to comments from board members, we are going to present the draft final master plan report. It will be consistent with the deck that you've seen. You know, about 3 months ago, we presented the what. About 2 months ago, we presented the how. And then last month, we presented the sort of pulling it all together. What you'll see, so the recommendations piece, what you're going to see is a conversion of that deck into a report format. And then we'll present that that draft final master plan on June the 27th. And then we'll hold the request for board adoption until July 25th, which is what the action item was that was reflected on here. Again, that draft final report will be consistent with the information and details that have been presented over the last several months in committee board meetings. And we look forward to receiving any comments that you may have after that presentation by July 17th. That will give us time to allow for any potential revisions that may be needed, final report printing, so that when we come back in July, we'll have a final report, all complete and so forth, that you would at that point consider for adoption. There's also a question, we wanted to share this with the committee as well, about FTA requirements. FTA does require what's called a 5-year capital operating plan to guide investment. There is no requirement for a COA TPP or a master transit plan or any of those kinds of things. They are really great tools and considered best practice, especially when you take the master transit plan, the COA TPP, and all the work that you will see the culmination of this month in the CAP budget, annual budget, including the CIP, that become critical tools for guiding our future and our investments. So we're very proud to be bringing all of this work forward, positioning CAT, I think, incredibly well to be competitive with grants, with partnerships, and all those kinds of things, because we show that we've got our business in order and we're ready to move ahead.
So, I'm sorry, go ahead, Chairwoman.
No, you go ahead and then I'll make my comment.
I guess what I'm, the master transit plan is what it is. But then my question is more about the things that are best practices, although they're not required, they're best practices. So I'm thinking to satisfy FTA, which is our overseer of what we do, in that master transit plan, will there be a direct indication as to what the COA is and the TDP is, specifically, not just embedded in something that we can literally see that this is what that is?
The COA TDP is going to be presented in its draft form to you this month. It's going to be presented to the planning committee at 4 o'clock, and then it'll be presented at the board meeting as well. And now what we're going to do is we were going to be considering it for approval in July. Now we'll be looking at both the master transit plan and the COA TDP, and they operate in a very complementary, integrated fashion along with the budget document.
So we'll see two different documents.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And then my only comment on the master transit plan, and I just hope that, and Stephanie has done such a fabulous job with our finances, just to looking at ways for Chatham Area Transit to be more self-sufficient. Because I've always, whether it's the county or whether it's CAT or whether it's even Curtis Cooper, that's another board that I sit on, I worry that sometime in the future, this federal money may get tight. You can only cut the pie in so many squares, and I just worry that at some point, some of the funding that we've become accustomed to could not necessarily dry up, but certainly not be of the margins that it is now. So I just want to be mindful that the more we can run our organization, as much on our own as possible, the better.
Director Stone, I think that's such an excellent point, and I think that's why the master transit plan specifically is so critically important. The COATDP really digs into the stops, the shelters, the routes, the operational characteristics, and it also has the accompanying sort of financial pieces to it, and aligns with what's in our budget. The master transit plan does that same kind of alignment, but to your point, in a much more robust way, is thoughtful and deliberate about our intentional financial strategies and implementation strategies, and also those scenarios for the future, and how can we begin to broaden our partnerships, lessen our reliance on any particular funding source, and make sure that we are capturing all of the opportunity that is out there. And the other thing that is true is that communities and organizations like ours that have master plans that describe that kind of future and lay that out inevitably do better in that competitive market and in the partnership market, because in effect it serves like a business plan that shows that you not only have ambition and we believe in the future of CAP, but that we have real business plan behind how we're going to continue to
Right.
serve and so forth.
Right. And I mean, I'm just in looking at some of the work that I've done with the state, the Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Disabilities, they're holding on to some money right now. The fear is possibly a recession, a mild recession towards the end of the year. So, I want us to be mindful of the fact that, yes, we've been blessed to receive grants and federal funding, but at some point, it could get slimmer, and we need to be prepared.
Absolutely.
Like I said, Stephanie has done an amazing job. I mean, this is the best financial shape that CAT has been in a long time, and I've been a part of CAT's for 18 years now, and so I've seen the hills and I've seen the valleys. So, I think we're on the right track with our reserves, but also really questioning, how can we be efficient? How can we make the best use of our money and not rely so heavily on the federal and state government? Because I just, that could change in a heartbeat.
No, that's absolutely correct. And again, I think that's where the master transit plan comes in with its strongest value. Is again that COATDP is really focused in your service and operations lane. The master transit plan is really focused in your strategy and your vision lane, and that's where those kinds of important things that you're describing really occur. And then, of course, your budget is your implementation tool for how you make all those things happen. And I think that's one thing that's really unique for CAP this year, is that we've brought all three of those things together, and Ms. Cutter can share with you how closely we've all worked together to bring that alignment and integration of all three of those things to bring that best value to CAP. So I appreciate all the comments about that. One thing I will also remind you of is on that meeting this month, we will also be joined by Paul Spatellis, who's the CEO and president of APTA. We are delighted that he's gonna be here visiting with us, and remember that the evening before, we're gonna all get together, so continue, you've already got a save the date on that, but I just wanted to remind you all that he'll be here, and we look to gather up the evening before for some opportunity to really talk and fellowship a bit before he'll be at our full meeting. He is gonna give some brief remarks on future trends.
But if I may, Chairman, on the finance piece, I was thinking about what we see the county do when they're doing the budgeting, how the different departments come forward and they literally fight for those dollars. And I think the work that you do, we may not see it, but I think you're probably doing something similar to that. And I like the idea of what the departments ask for and then have to literally defend, why do you need those dollars? And that's one sure way we're protecting our dollars, by making those folks who are going to spend those dollars accountable for how you're going to spend these dollars. Because, because when you got different departments, everybody wants money. But as the CFO, you have a major responsibility ensuring that these requests are reasonable, and they make sense. So again, kudos to the staff for what they do, and for those departments who are willing to take for the critical stuff and say, well, we can live without this, because it's going to help the whole. So again, kudos to you guys.
Right.
We have two items under executive governance that I'll also mention.
Yes.
There will be an RFP that will be seeking your approval to issue for federal and state local legislative services. This is a part of that contract administration review that we have been reporting to you on over the last several months, and this will be separating our state and federal, state, local, and federal into two separate contracts, and also really beefing up the scope in a way that we believe is going to give us best performance. And then the property.
I'm sorry, can I ask you a question on that particular one?
Yes,
When you say separate them now, the two they're combined as one contract serving us for both federal and state, but with two different entities? And my question about that, about issuing the RFP, if my memory serves me correctly, this was a 5-year contract. Am I correct? But we're still in that contract. But I wish legal was here, because I guess the only question I have is, can we legally issue an RFP against an active contract?
Yes, ma'am.
And where's that in policy? I would like to see that in policy.
It's not in policy, it's in the contract document itself, and we're glad to provide that to you. There are ways that we have, there are ways both like for calls and also just for convenience that are spelled out in the contract.
Mhm.
And there's nothing legally, and we've certainly had all this reviewed through Andrew and our legal staff. There's nothing that prevents us from determining that we want to issue new RFPs. We've notified both of the vendors, and in notifying both of the vendors, we also make sure that they knew that the current contract will remain in place until we award a new contract, and they're both aware of that.
But help me understand, when it comes to contract like that, is that not a board responsibility?
Yes.
Operations and management responsibilities.
So staff can decide to pull a contract at any time for review, or?
Well, let me just butt in here if it's all right. Dr. Robinson, I'm not sure why these were ever set up on the same contract. They really should not have been. I mean, they're two separate
Right.
organizations. And so with one, these two are lumped together. And I really think for the welfare of the board or for the welfare of the organization, these are two different companies. They shouldn't be on the same contract.
But I can agree with that in part, but my question again is that we as a board signed a 5-year contract, knowing that we had two separate entities working together, hopefully on our behalf. So the other question, what have we measured to show how ineffective this has been?
I'm going to say this. I, as a board member, was not aware that these two companies were lumped together in the same contract. I mean, I knew we had contracts, but I didn't know that they were joined.
Yeah, I'm like you because they would report out separately to us. We'd get a federal report and then we'd get a state report.
Yes,
I'm
but
like
I understand your question is because this is a 5-year contract, can this be done? And I'm sure Mr. Massimo can get a legal opinion from the attorneys.
Yeah, I'd like for Andrew to tell us something as a board, you know, what, because I'd want to know, not just with this contract, how do we measure the effectiveness of what they're doing and why would we want to pull the contract? Other than what Director Stone said, there are two different companies. And again, if you put an RFP out, they'll have an opportunity to bid
Yes.
as well, right?
Yes,
Right.
absolutely.
What our real accomplishment or aim was with this, and you may recall this from the reporting that I've done prior to this, is our assessment was on, that was done, as you mentioned, several years ago. I think it's been in place about 3 years now. A lot has changed in the federal funding landscape, in the federal programs landscape, and in the state landscape as well. You know, we had a huge amount of success in the state legislature this year. And so there are new programs, new funding, new relationships, new lots of things that really weren't contemplated in that procurement earlier. And we wanted a chance to refine the scope and to be more targeted and directed about the kinds of things that we need to do and how we need to do them.
But the success that we experienced was within this contract. You know, what I'm saying is if you had this contract in place, and you're talking about successes, and as a result of our lobbying, then the folks that we had in place, I would think played a role in that somehow. So I would just, you know, if they're two separate companies and what we want to see now is the change in each one of them operating separately, and we're going to do an RFP to do the separations. Is that our reason for doing this? So we can have two separate contracts with two separate companies.
And so we can have an opportunity to revisit the scope and refine what our expectations were and also define performance objectives for those contracts.
Okay, but again, the success that we experienced with these existing lobbyists. So I'm just, you know, when things are rushed for me, I have a concern. You got a 5-year contract with 2 years left on it. Why are we doing it now? I guess maybe that's why are we doing it now?
Again, it's exactly the way I've been explaining it over the last several meetings, is it was our belief in managing those contracts and managing that performance. You remember, you haven't seen that same level of performance in the past 2 years. You saw that level of performance this year. So we are wanting to make sure that we have alignment between leadership and our team that's doing that work for us with regard to what our expectations are of performance and making sure that we can manage it most effectively. And again, that separation is Director Stone was describing and the business reasoning that we've given you in the earlier meetings that wanted to make sure that we had a chance in this changing landscape that we've responded to very well this past year. But we haven't seen that same success in previous years, that we wanted a chance to really refocus that a little bit and develop that partnership a little bit further under those two contracts.
Is there a policy on how long or is there a window when the new RFP is supposed to come out, you know, in reference to being that the contract is running out in 2 years? I think, you know, it should be a standard of any contract, 6 months out, 1 year out. It can't be because we feel like it to do an RFP. There should be some type of
Well, I think though that if we have some business calls, as we described, Director Taylor, for why we wanted to come into this contract and say, and in fact, I will tell you what's interesting is both of the current vendors were very pleased with the fact that we were going to separate the contract. They too have found it to be cumbersome and so forth in their own business dealings. And so
but there should be a window.
typically what you would do, well, that's why you have for calls for.
I don't think we were aware of this until recently. So, and certainly as a board member several years ago when this was put in place, I was not aware that it was on the same contract. So I think that this is more, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Massimo, that this is more of a housekeeping, cleaning up some of the things that we're finding that could be potentially a problem down the road if these two organizations decided they didn't want to, one of them wanted to pull out or they didn't want this. So I think this is more of a, thanks to our CEO, she's going through and checking stuff that hasn't been reviewed or looked at and finding where there are issues that we need to deal with.
Wait.
One thing that came up in particular related to that is, we're in the midst of preparing for the triennial review. And, that is one of the things that we're queried on in the triennial review, and some specific questions, not just general questions, but some specific questions to us. And you may recall, I know Director Stone, you said you didn't really realize how that contract was awarded, but you remember that contract after the review, it started off as two, and then it was somewhere combined into one, and it was a little unclear how that happened and so forth.
Right.
That's another thing, to your point, of sort of cleaning up and housekeeping to make sure that all successfully passes through a triennial review is also an important piece of this.
But I would really like to see how legal weighs into this based on the question that Mr. Taylor asked and what I asked. If there's a policy in place or not in place, are we at risk of violating something based on us doing it now versus 12 months from now? And then again, when we use the term house cleaning, then I would question it. What is it in the house that have been evaluated, that have been ineffective, that's caused us to be at this point? Because if you've got two people that's doing a job and we gave them a 5-year contract, now we're doing, quote, house cleaning, then what measures, what have we done to evaluate what they've done so far, that when we do the new scope, that we'll have those things covered and they have an opportunity to say yay or nay, I can do this. So I'd like to know, what have we done in-house, in order to come to this point where we need to do house cleaning? And how do we measure the effectiveness of how these
Dr. Robinson, there's a procedure. I mean, they will have to fill out an RFP and then it'll be evaluated. I mean, that's how it's done.
I'm not questioning the process. I understand that part. Yeah.
But
Yes, but
I'm just saying that, whether a few months back, Mr. Massimo found some insurance issues that we had to deal with.
Right.
So, these are just things we're looking at to try to make sure that Chatham Area Transit is doing everything they're supposed to do and doing it correctly. And yes, I think that we can get the attorneys to weigh in on this and make sure that we're not doing anything wrong. But I think if I heard our CEO correctly, that even both of these organizations, whether it's the federal lobbying firm or the state lobbying firm, they don't typically want to be on the same contract. So this is something, and because of that, go ahead and let them go through the correct channels and do the RFP.
Right, and that's not my argument at all. Yeah,
Okay.
I agree with that process. What I'm concerned about is that these same individuals will have an opportunity to bid on the RFVP.
Yes.
And saying that, and they've done the job before, so if they've given the same information that this is a scope, this is a change in the scope that we notice have not been being done or have not been being done effectively, then they have an opportunity to either clean up what they've been doing, and bid and hopefully get a fair assessment based on the, you gave us the 30%, the and they may come back and be the top people. So in that case, are we displeased with them at this point? Are we okay with them? Or, what is our position?
I think we have to wait till we get to the RFP process. And then they'll do an evaluation and then we'll be able to talk about it.
So we're not currently doing an evaluation of their existing position with us. Is that what I'm understanding, Director Stone?
They're going to be, anytime Madam CEO, correct me if I'm wrong, but anytime an RFP is done, then an evaluation is done and the results are brought back to us and then we vote.
Right, but I'm saying the 5-year contract we signed, that we say we weren't aware that they were combined, and these folk have been doing the job. I'm asking what type of evaluation have we done within the last 3 years to determine their effectiveness or ineffectiveness, is what
We
I'm
don't
asking.
do that until their contract comes up for renewal. So right now, we're separating them out, we're starting over, so we will have the chance to evaluate each firm individually and not lumped together, which we should have been doing from the get-go. So, I mean, I'm trying to explain this as best I can. We're not penalizing anybody at this point. We are simply splitting the contract and saying our federal lobbyist, for anybody that wants to apply. That means the existing company that has the contract. The same with the state. We're going to put this out for bids. Everybody that wants to apply. Then the process is these companies will be evaluated and then we go through the evaluation and vote. Am I correct on that?
I think there were two pieces in particular that, when we were going through the contract review of all of the existing contracts, which you recall, there was also there was one with on our security, for example, that one, I think we made changes on, but that one was based on performance. This was based more upon looking at and understanding sort of three pieces. The first was that the previous proposal and award, there was something in there, like I said, it started off as two, and then somewhere combined into one, and we had some concerns about how that was going to be reviewed and looked at as a part of any kind of federal reviews, and we wanted to look at how we could clean that up. I think the other part was that, again, as I stated on the record in several board meetings, that we wanted to look at the changing landscape, and there's always an opportunity to revisit, like I said, either for cause, as we've done on others, or for convenience, and say we want to reshape our scope a bit here, and repeat this in a way to make sure that we're getting exactly what we need. So there were both procedural things, perhaps, that were a little unclear in the records of this. There were also, and then managing those contracts as they're managed right now. They were awarded in a way where one firm, you would think in a normal contractual manner, there would be a prime and a sub, but it's really not set up that way either. They're still two separate firms, but they're processing one through the other. So it genuinely was a way, not house cleaning, but housekeeping, of cleaning up some of that stuff that just seemed not as clear as we would want it to be, especially in a review, and then making sure that we took that opportunity further to say lots of different times now, lots of different programs, different federal landscape, different state landscape for us as well, and should we refine our scope to better navigate in that? And as a matter of just, that's something that I operate and manage as a part of the executive offices, and so made that decision to recompete.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I haven't seen these contracts, but like you said, when you start redoing these procedures, and this is just a suggestion, the contract needs to read, it's a 5-year contract with 3 years with 2 option years. That means after each year, you evaluate the contract.
And that takes
That
away
means after the 3rd year, then you can get rid of the person legally without having anything said, because what I'm hearing is you're just issuing 5-year contracts. And then if the person doesn't do what it's supposed to, then we're taking the contract away, which is okay, but it's not really morally right. You're supposed to evaluate that company, if you got 25 contracts, there should be 25 evaluations annually. And then again, if you write it where you have, it's a 3-year contract with 2 option years, after that 3rd year, now you have 3 evaluations. You either have 1 good one, 2 bad ones, 2 bad ones, 1 good one. And then you can move forward and say, well, you know what? We've already evaluated you 3 years and you didn't do what you're supposed to. So now we can move forward.
Yeah.
Or you've done what you're supposed to within these 3 years and we're going to keep you.
Director
Be-
Taylor, we did propose the scope when you said it is for a 3-year contract with 2-year agreements. So we agree with you completely.
So you said that that currently exists?
That's what we proposed for this new market.
Right, but that doesn't, but what he said, it doesn't currently exist.
I think the current, is it a 3-2, or is it currently?
It's a straight 5-year contract.
Yes,
Yeah.
and that's what I'm saying. When it's straight 5, you don't give yourself a chance to evaluate the company.
Yeah,
If you make, it always have to be a 3-year evaluation, an odd number of evaluation. That way, if you have 2 bad, 1 good, you get rid of them. 1, 2 good, 1 bad, you keep them.
And I just want to make sure that everybody's clear on what I'm asking. I am not questioning the issuing of an RFP. That's not what I'm questioning at all. I agree with what Director Stone is saying is that these are 2 separate companies, that they need to be separate. I can deal with that. What I'm asking now is that you have a 5-year RFP and you have 2 people working those contracts. How have we evaluated them to determine whether the service they provided has been effective or ineffective? That's really my question, because we got to have a way to evaluate the performances of these people we're giving our monies to.
We did include in this particular scope and RFP that's under development now or being proposed now, we did include performance measures. The previous contract did not have performance measures in it to evaluation up to whomever's looking at it. This puts forward some more specifics about what success looks like, what success should look like. And also that was another thing that I thought was important. It's important for us and it's important for them. So we all have a common explanation.
Yeah.
Understanding your definition.
And I do get what we're doing moving forward. But what I'm really asking is, because like with the insurance thing and all these other things that we're discovering, our discovery method for this particular RFP, what was our discovery method for these 2 entities? Because they're going to come back around and bid again. So I want to know, because you said you have conversation with them and you said they're both excited about being separate. So that means to me that they want to come back because they think they're walking out in good favor with CAT based on the conversation they've had with you. So I need to know at what point during those conversations we've said, I don't mean in words, but what if you've done well,
We'll get to that. We'll get to that once they submit their RFP. I mean, that's our opportunity then to evaluate them.
Right, but we already have them in place, and you've already had discussions with them.
Understand, but
so
look,
that's what my question is about them as our current provider.
we
Have they been
evaluate our
effective or
CEO
ineffective?
once a year. There's nothing wrong with evaluating our employees or people that we pay money to
Right,
from time to time. There's
Right.
nothing wrong with that.
right. And I'm asking, have we done that? And this is a result of our findings. That's what I agree with you.
This change was not being made as a matter of performance. This change was being made as a matter of
Convenience.
for the business reasons, not just for no reason at all, but for the reasons that I've just described to you. We wanted to assess the changing market. We wanted to look at what looked to be a little bit of a different procurement approach that looks like it might be something that might raise some questions, and we wanted to clean that up. We wanted to
All right.
also establish performance measures so that we're all in agreement about what a success looked like, both for those that are representing us as lobbyists and also for us in terms of what our aspiration or commitment there is.
All right, so it seems Mr. Massimo, that you'll get with the attorney and make sure that everything we're doing is proper and legal, and then get back with us on that issue.
I will do, I'll have Ingrid, draft up something that explains, the legality. So, and I'm confident that that's in good shape. The next item was a property and casualty insurance proposed renewal, pending additional data from the broker. Ms. Cutter and I have been meeting with our insurance broker, just as we just completed recently with you on health insurance, for property and casualty insurance. We knew that we were gonna see some increases this year, and we are seeing those as that data is coming in. It is still coming in. One of the areas, for example, we knew we were gonna see some increase on our property, insurance because of, losses and so forth, but it was still within reason of what we thought it would be. Within, workman's comp, we saw a real jump that we, is beyond a little bit what we were expecting. So our insurance broker is continuing, even as we speak now, to negotiate and navigate and work with all of the marketplace to try to bring us the best, most competitive value, for your consideration. And then Ms. Cutter and I, on the workman's comp issue, are working on a program that we hope to introduce this year that would also be responsive to our insurance carrier, but also responsive to our obligations, stewardship here at CAT, to bring forward an incentive program so that you go so many days without an accident, without injury. We're probably gonna do this on a quarterly basis. There would be a small reward for that, cash reward for that, and there would also be some demonstration of, something in like the quarterly newsletter where we give credit to those we showcase and highlight those that have, served with that accident free, so that we really begin to get people thinking about that, and we start to bring that workman's comp, matter down. Ms. Cutter, did you have anything else to add?
Hold it. There you go.
One thing that the board stated, director stated, even in this setting, concern about CAT's future and gaining more independence. That comes with efficiently managing the resources that you have. Also, education and training our employees to be the best employees, wherein they work safe, and they are recognized for those efforts. In the long run, it saves money that we can put back into investing in our employees, whether it's better benefits or helping to sustain and or support competitive wages. I firmly believe that people learn from each other. And if one operator sees another operator being effective and safe, and they're recognized, I really think that incentivizes all of us to work safe and to do better. And they'll see the benefits by costs going down, and receiving greater benefits overall.
Is there any, when we talk about property and casualty insurance, is there any discussion about the cost of new acquisition of property? If we got new real estate, how would that impact us, and budget-wise, has there been any conversation about that with the insurance company?
Right now, we're just looking at the valuation of the property.
Right.
that Chris spoke about. More impactful on the financial side is the new vehicles themselves, because there's a far greater measure of liability, if you will, there, potential liability impact with operational, assets and property.
But I guess what I'm asking is, if we decide to acquire more property, it's going to cause the insurance to go up, right? Right. But I'm saying, but I'm saying with acquiring new, not what you existingly have. So how do we factor that in?
That is correct. And when we examine the cost of public transportation services, all of the costs to support capital and operations are factored into the costs that we assessed on service delivery as it relates to expanding into different areas. All of that is factored in as an overhead cost. So that's how we would recoup and be able to afford all of these overhead costs that comes with growing.
And what we'll be able to recoup.
Yes, ma'am.
Big growth in service.
Yes.
Growth in property
Yes.
insurance.
Yes.
The other thing, Director Robinson, related to that, is I know you're part of what you may be thinking about, well, where does that come from? And remember that especially when I take service extensions for the expense service, that our metrics in ETD tick it up, and we're eligible for more funds, and more funds. So there's a way that all does in fact, that expansion something, or more property, or more service, or whatever, in fact, attract more dollars. That's a great question.
All right, are there any other questions or comments before we adjourn? And bear in mind that our next board meeting will be on the 27th of June. So if there is nothing else for the good of the order, to our CEO and our board members, thank you very, very much for participating, and for our staff, our wonderful staff at Chatham Area Transit. And again, our kudos to Ms. Cutter and her eagle eye on our finances. I deeply appreciate that. So if there is nothing else, I will take a motion to adjourn. Is there a motion?
So move, I'm sorry.
I make a motion
Just checking to see if y'all are still awake.
I
All
second.
right. All right. All in favor? Aye. All right. Thank y'all so much. I appreciate everything that